Khamzat Chimaev has gained a lot of fans in the 2 years since he joined the UFC. He is thought to be one of the best fighters in the world because he has never lost in his MMA career. After beating Gilbert Burns and Kevin Holland, Boers is sure it won't be too long before he gets a chance to win UFC gold. Chimaev has been out of the UFC for almost 6 months and is having trouble getting a fight. He says that his rival Covington is running from him. Khamzat Chimaev has said that his UFC opponent Colby Covington doesn't want to fight him.
Division, and straight away we see Khamzat shoots in, and he's going to pick him up and put him in his own corner. Nice.
Chimaev, who is 28 years old, hasn't fought since September of last year at UFC 279.
Chimaev's breathing heavy now.
Well, he's sprinting.
He tapped out Kevin Holland in 2 minutes. The Chechen was supposed to fight Nate Diaz as the main event of the pay-per-view, but the fight had to be cancelled because Chimaev was 7.5 pounds overweight. At UFC 286 in March, Boers was supposed to fight former interim welterweight champion Covington, but the fight never happened.
Oh, man! Look at that, though. A beautiful head kick straight into a double leg.
Chimaev is angry that the UFC can't find him a fight. So he's going to move up to middleweight and fight Robert Whittaker next. They said at first that it was Colby Covington. Chimaev told Red Corner MMA, "We've been waiting for a half year. It looks like he doesn't want it. Everyone challenges me, but when the UFC tries to make the fight happen, they all ran away."
And you want to be here this quick.
And how about the wherewithal to literally bring him right over?
I think whoever wins the match between Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards will face me. I'm going to fight Robert Whittaker, I think. He's got no opponent. After talking so much about me and Robert, Paulo Costa ran away. So I will fight Whittaker. Even though I like him as a person, I want this fight. He is a good person who doesn't trash talk or break any rules. We're going to have fun and fight at the press conference. Covington hasn't fought since March of last year, when he beat his old friend and now bitter rival Jorge Masvidal in a one-sided fight. Just a few weeks after the fight, Masvidal is said to have attacked Covington outside of a restaurant in Miami and given him a brain injury. It's not clear if Covington's return to the UFC is being held up by the ongoing legal issue.
Joe, man, it's so great to have you back inside the octagon. It's such an honor to be next to you. I want to thank all the first responders out there, military law.
Chimaev isn't going to wait around for Covington because he wants to move back up to middleweight and fight Whittaker, who used to be the champion. Last year, Chimaev didn't seem too interested in fighting Whittaker. He said he'd rather train with the Australian, who admitted that Chimaev is a good fighter with good wrestling skills.
Holland has closed the guard. Furious start to this one as expected.
Whittaker said that fighting Chimaev would be hard because he would throw so many kicks down the middle. I have fought wrestlers before like Yoel Romero, who won a silver medal at the Olympics. Even though Khamzat is not that kind of wrestler, I'd have to think about that if we go there. In November, Alex Pereira became the new middleweight champion. People have talked a lot about who he might fight, if not Israel Adesanya again. A lot of people thought that Robert Whittaker would be up for a title, but Khamzat Chimaev wanted to fight Alex Pereira for the middleweight title soon after Pereira won the title. In a recent interview with Submission Radio, Robert Whittaker said that if Khamzat Chimaev and Alex Pereira were to fight for the UFC title before him, it wouldn't bother him. They've always done weird things like this, and I've even seen stranger things happen around titles, the middleweight said. What it is. I guess it would be interesting. I don't really care about anything because I'm going to fight Paulo Costa in February. Then I'll go after whoever is in the top spot. Khamzat Chimaev thinks he will fight Robert Whittaker next because Paulo Costa ran away. Whittaker was supposed to fight Paulo Costa at UFC 284 on Saturday, but the fight was cancelled because Costa couldn't agree to a new contract. Boers wants to fight Whittaker next because Chimaev is having trouble getting a fight and Whittaker doesn't have anyone to fight right now. Chimaev was supposed to fight Nate Diaz at welterweight at UFC 279, but he missed weight by 7.5 pounds.
27-19 Chimaev on the significant strike front in round 1. And listen, he still looks unbelievable, right?
So he was matched up with Kevin Holland in a catchweight match at 180 pounds. He won the fight by giving up in the first round.
It looked like his right hand was breaking his tap. I mean, and constant pressure.
Chimaev could now go back to middleweight, but he could also fight the winner of the welterweight title fight between champion Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman, which is the main event of UFC 286 on March 18th. Chimaev said, "Whoever takes it will have to face me. I think it will be a close race again. Let's see if Leon can get rid of Kamaru once more. After getting knocked out like that, I thought Usman would quit, but he came back. We will see." If the UFC asked him to, Robert Whittaker would fight Khamzat Chimaev.
That leg, so he couldn't fully pick him up and slam him, but ultimately he gets him where he wants him. Beautiful.
Chimaev has never lost in the UFC, but Whittaker thinks he would be just as hard to beat. Whittaker isn't sure if the fight makes sense for him, since he is a top contender at welterweight, but he knows it would get a lot of attention. Whittaker said it would be a fight worth making because he's riding the hype train and the UFC wants to move this guy up in the rankings because he's a lot of guys' worst nightmare. The main event of UFC 287 will be a rematch between middleweight champion Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya. This puts Whittaker in a tough spot.
Two early knockouts for Whittaker. Robert Whittaker!
Whittaker has beaten many top contenders like Jared Cannonier and Marvin Vettori and was supposed to fight Paulo Costa on Saturday at UFC 284, but the fight was cancelled.
After I go train.
It is a big win for Robert the Reaper Whittaker.
He wants to fight in April, but he hasn't heard anything about who it will be with yet. As a bonus, Dagestan has been on the way to the UFC lightweight title for a long time, and now so does the way to the top spot in the pound-for-pound list. In the main event of UFC 284, which took place Saturday in Perth, Australia, Islam Makhachev beat Alexander Volkanovski by unanimous decision, 48-47, 48-47, 49-46, to keep the lightweight title. Makhachev will now be seen as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, just like his longtime teammate and friend Khabib Nurmagomedov, who used to be the UFC lightweight champion before he retired.
I want to stay humble, but I have to talk because your guys talk too much.
ESPN said Volkanovski was the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and he was fighting in his home country.
I just knew I prepared properly, but hey, it was a fun fight, you know. Maybe I could have capitalized in some positions a bit more.
He was getting better so he could fight Makhachev, who was ranked second. It was one of the few times in the history of mixed martial arts that the two best fighters in the world, no matter what weight class, faced off against each other. Volkanovski was a big underdog, but he did a great job, keeping the fight close and mostly making Makhachev's famous wrestling skills useless. Makhachev, on the other hand, was very good at striking, which Volkanovski was supposed to be better at. All in all, it was a great fight and deserved a win for Makhachev. Thanks for tuning in to our coverage of Khamzat Chimaev's latest comments about his UFC rival. It remains to be seen whether the two fighters will face off in the octagon, but we'll be sure to keep you updated as the story develops. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more MMA news and analysis. Unfortunately, that's all for today. Till next time.